In this video, we're building a professional login and registration system, just like real-world applications. This authentication system will be fully functional, built using only React and Tailwind CSS, featuring a polished, professional UI. Here's our login form. Below the Welcome heading, we see the text, "Please enter your email and password." Below that are the input fields. When you click them, they display a beautiful yellow glow effect. I'll enter the email test at gmail.com, then click the password field and enter 123456. Clicking the login button triggers a red error message. Oops, wrong email or password. And the input fields turn red. Now let's register a new account. Click the Register Now button below. This navigates us to the registration page with name, email, and password fields. If we click Register without filling them out, the error message, "All fields are required," appears, and the input fields turn red. Very professional. First, I'll enter the name John. For the email, if I only type John and click Register, "All fields are required" appears again. I'll enter the complete email, john@gmail.com. For the password, I'll type 5 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After checking I agree to the terms and conditions and clicking Register, an error appears. Password must be at least 6 characters. I'll add a 6th character. Clicking Register now, notice the 5-second delay I've configured. A beautiful circular loading animation appears inside the button. After that, we're redirected to the login page. I'll enter the email john@gmails.com, intentionally adding an extra "as" to test validation. For the password, I'll enter 12345. Only 5 characters instead of 6. I'll check Remember Me and click Login. The error message, "Email not found," appears because we misspelled the email by adding that extra "as." I'll remove the "as" and enter the correct email. Clicking Login again shows incorrect password because we only entered 5 characters. I'll add the 6th character. Clicking Login displays that same beautiful circular animation for 5 seconds. We're automatically redirected to the dashboard, displaying "Welcome back, John" and the email we registered with. Below that is a logout button. When clicked, we're automatically logged out and returned to the login page. We'll build this complete project in just 20 minutes. So without wasting time, let's get started. First, open VS Code and launch the terminal. After opening the terminal, execute the command npm create vitae at latest, followed by a period, and press enter. Next, provide your project name in the package name field, then select React as the framework and JavaScript as the variant. Click No on the next prompt, then click Yes to install and start npm immediately. After a few moments, the installation will complete. You'll see a localhost link appear. Open it in your preferred browser. Now navigate to the src folder and delete the app.css file. Then open the app.jsx file and remove the default counter code. Inside src, create 4 folders: Page, Routes, Style, and Utils. Within the Page folder, create 4 files: dashboard.jsx, loader.jsx, login.jsx, and register.jsx. Inside the Routes folder, create protected route.jsx. In the Style folder, create UI.js, and in the Utils folder, create auth.js. Our folder structure and file creation are now complete. Next, close all files except auth.js, which is where we'll write our authentication logic. Inside auth.js, define 2 constants: user key equals auth-user, and auth key equals isAuthenticated. Both values are strings. Now export a constant named register user as an arrow function. Accept data as the parameter. Inside this function, extract name from data.name using optional chaining and trim. Similarly, extract email from data.email with optional chaining, trim, and a lowercase since it's an email address. Finally, extract password from data.password with optional chaining and trim. Below this, add an if statement. If name, email, or password are missing, return an object with success. False and message. All fields are required. Add another if statement. If localStorage.getItem with user key exists, return success. False with message. User already exists, please log in. Next, create a variable named email rejects containing the email validation pattern. Add an if statement. If email rejects.test with email fails, return success. False with message. Enter a valid email. Then add a password validation. If password.length is less than 6, return success. False with message. Password must be at least 6 characters. After validation, create a user object containing name, email, and password. Call localStorage.setItem with user key and JSON.stringify the user object. Then call localStorage.setItem with auth key set to false. Finally, return success : true. The registration logic is now complete. Next, we'll implement the login functionality. Export a constant named login user as an arrow function with email input and password input as parameters. Inside, create an email variable equal to email input with optional chaining, trim, and to lowercase. Create a password variable equal to password input with optional chaining and trim. Add an if statement. If email or password are missing, return success. False with message. All fields are required. Create a stored user variable equal to localStorage.getItem with user key. Add an if statement. If stored user doesn't exist, return success. False with message. Oops, wrong email or password. Declare a let variable named user. Add a try catch block. Inside try, assign user to JSON.parse with stored user. Inside catch, return success : false with message : corrupted user data . Below the catch block, add an if statement. If user.email doesn't match email, return success. False with message. Email not found. Add another if statement. If user.password doesn't match password, return success. False with message. Incorrect password. After validation, call localStorage.setItem with auth key set to true. Return success. True. The login logic is complete. Next, export a constant named is authenticated as an arrow function that returns localStorage.getItem with auth key equals true. Then export a constant named getUser as an arrow function. Create a stored user variable equal to localStorage.getItem with user key. Add an if statement. If stored user doesn't exist, return null. Add a try catch block. Inside try, return JSON.parse with stored user. Inside catch, return null. Finally, export a constant named logout as an arrow function. Call localStorage.removeItem with auth key and localStorage.removeItem with user key. Both items are removed upon logout. The auth.js file is complete. Now open login.jsx. Export the login component as an arrow function that returns a div containing the text login. Next, open register.jsx. Export the register component as an arrow function that returns a div containing the text register. Then open dashboard.jsx. Export the dashboard component as an arrow function that returns a div containing the text dashboard. Open protectedroute.jsx. Export the protected route component that returns a div containing the text protected route. Now open app.jsx and the terminal. Execute the command npm install react-router-dom. Wait a few seconds for installation. After installation, import browser router, routes, route, dashboard, protected route, login, and register. Inside the app component, return browser router. Inside browser router, add routes. Inside routes, add the first route with path forward, / and element rendering the login component. Add a second route with path / register and element rendering the register component. Add a third route with path / dashboard and element rendering the protected route component. Inside protected route, nest the dashboard component to protect it. Close the route. Now open index.css and remove all default styling. Open protected route.jsx and import is authenticated and navigate. Add children as a destructured prop parameter and remove the return div. Call isAuthenticated with a ternary operator. If authenticated, render children. Otherwise, navigate to /. If children don't exist, redirect to the login page since that's our default route. Open loader.jsx. Export the loader component and return a div with class name loader. Open register.jsx. Import loader, React icons, register user, use state, and navigate user. Open the terminal and execute npm install react-icons. Installation will complete in a few seconds. React Icons is a library providing icon components. Search for password icons, copy the import statement, and paste it into your file. I've already imported the necessary icons. Return an empty div in the register component. Before the return statement, add the logic. Call const navigate equals use. Navigate. Create state variables name and set name equal to use state with an empty string. Create email and set email equal to use state with an empty string. Create password and set password equal to use state with an empty string. Create error and set error equal to use state with an empty string. Create loading and set loading equal to use state with false as the default Boolean value. Define an arrow function named handleSubmit with parameter e. Call e.preventDefault and set error to an empty string. Create a const result equal to await register user with an object containing name, email, and password. Add an if statement. If result.success is not true, call set error with result.message and return. Below the if statement, call set loading with true and use set timeout. Inside set timeout, call set loading with false, navigate to the login page, and set the timeout duration to 5,000 milliseconds for a 5-second loading period. Inside the existing div, create another div. Inside this div, add an img tag with src dragon and alt dragon. Exit this div and create a form element. Inside the form, add a div, and inside that div, add a span. Write the text register inside the span and render a clipping icon. Below the span, use curly braces to check for error. If error exists, return a p tag containing the error. Otherwise, return a p tag with the text, please enter your name, email, and password. Exit one div and create another div containing a name chip icon. Add an input with type text, placeholder name, value name, and onChange arrow function with parameter e that calls setName with e.target.value. Exit this div and create a third div. Render the email icon, add an input with type email, placeholder email, value email, and onChange arrow function that calls setEmail with e.target.value. Exit that div and create another div rendering the password icon. Add an input with type password, placeholder password, value password, and onChange arrow function with parameter e that calls setPassword with e.target.value. Render the eye icon. Comment out the img tag we created earlier since the image is too large and obscures the input fields in the browser. Exit one div and create another div with input type checkbox. Add a span with the text I agree to thee, then nest another span inside with the text terms and conditions. Exit the two spans and div, then create a button with type submit. Set disable to loading. Inside the button, use curly braces. If loading is true, render the loader component. Otherwise, display the text register. Below the button, create a div containing 3 spans, leave the first and last spans empty. In the middle span, write the text or register with. Exit this div and create another div. Inside, create a span containing the FC Google icon and another span containing the FA GitHub icon. Exit this div and create a p tag. Write the text "already have an account," then nest a link with to / and text login. The register.jsx code is complete. Open the login page, import loader, the dragon image, React icons, use state, login user, use navigate, and link. Inside the login component, call const navigate equals use navigate. Create state variables, email and set email equal to use state with an empty string, password and set password equal to use state with an empty string, error and set error equal to use state with an empty string, and loading and set loading equal to use state with false as the default value. Define a handle submit function with parameter e that calls e.preventDefault. Set error to an empty string and create a variable result equal to login user with email and password. Add an if statement. If result.success is not true, call set error with result.message and return. Call set loading with true and use set timeout. Inside, call set loading with false and navigate to /dashboard. Set the timeout duration to 5,000 milliseconds for a 5-second delay. Remove the text in the return and create a div. Inside this div, add an img with src dragon and alt dragon. Comment it out to prevent the large image from interfering with the layout. Create a form element with onSubmit handle submit. Return to the register file. We forgot to add onSubmit to the form there. Add onSubmit handle submit to the register form. Return to login and create a div inside the form. Add a span containing the text welcome and a clapping icon. Exit the span and use curly braces. If error exists, return a p tag containing the error. Otherwise, return a p tag with the text, "Please enter your email and password." Exit one div and create another div containing an email icon. Add an input with type email, placeholder email, value email, and onChange arrow function with parameter e that calls set email with e.target.value. Exit this div and create another div rendering a password icon. Add an input with type password, placeholder password, value password, and onChange arrow function with parameter e that calls set password with e.target.value. Render the eye icon below. Exit one div and create another div with input type checkbox. Add a span with the text "Remember me." Exit this div and create a button with type submit and disabled loading. Inside the button, use curly braces. If loading is true, render the loader component. Otherwise, display the text login. Below the button, add an h2 with the text forgot password. Create a div containing 3 spans. Leave the first and last spans empty. In the middle span, write OR. Exit this div and create another div with 2 spans. The first span contains the Google icon and the second span contains the GitHub icon. Exit one div and create a p tag with the text "Don't have an account." Inside, add a link with the /register and text "Register now." The login logic is complete. Open the dashboard page. Import React icons, get user, logout, use navigate, use effect, and use state. Inside the dashboard component, call const navigate equals use navigate. Create a state variable, user and set user equal to use state with null. Add a use effect hook. Inside, create a variable stored user equal to get user. Add an if statement. If stored user doesn't exist, navigate to / and return. Below the if statement, call set user with stored user. In the dependency array, add navigate. Define a function named handle logout as an arrow function that calls logout and navigates to /. Add an if statement. If user doesn't exist, return null. Inside the return, create a div. Inside this div, add an aside element. Inside aside, add an h2 tag. Write the text dragon panel inside the h2. Below the h2, add a nav element with a span inside. Inside the span, render the dashboard icon and write the text dashboard. Create another span. Inside this span, render the user circle icon and write the text profile. Exit the span and nav, then create a button. Inside the button, render the sign out icon and write the text logout. The button text is logout. Exit the button and aside, then create a main tag. Inside the main tag, add an H1 with the text welcome back. Inside the H1, add a span. Inside the span, write user.name and render a clapping icon. Below the H1, create a div. Inside this div, add another div, and inside that, add a p tag. Write account inside the p tag. Below it, add an H2 tag with the text active. Exit one div and create another div. Inside this div, add a p tag with the text email. Below the p tag, add an H2 containing user.email. Exit this div and create another div. Inside, add a p tag with the text role. Below the p tag, add an H2 with the text user. Exit two divs and create another div with an H2 inside. Write recent activity inside the H2. Below the H2, add a UL with three LI elements. The first LI contains logged in successfully. The second LI contains accessed dashboard. The third LI contains session active. The dashboard logic is complete. Open the terminal and execute npm install Tailwind CSS. Use the latest Tailwind CSS for Vite. After executing this command, wait a few seconds. Once Tailwind CSS is installed, open vite.config.js. Locate the plugins array where React is configured and add Tailwind CSS below React. It will auto-import at the top. Open index.css and paste the configuration code directly. You don't need to write this code manually. All code is available on GitHub for download. Open UI.js and paste the utility classes for Tailwind CSS directly. Now we'll style the login component. I'll copy and paste the code directly without explaining every Tailwind CSS class. You don't need to write it either. The GitHub link is in the description. Download the code from there because explaining all the Tailwind CSS would make this video extremely long. We'll keep the video concise. You can see our Tailwind CSS styling is complete. We have a professional, polished UI. First, click the Login button. The input fields turn red. The message at the top reads, "All fields are required." This error appears. Enter the email john@gmail.com and the password 123456. Click the Login button and an error message appears at the top. Oops, wrong email or password. This is the error. Below we see "Don't have an account," and we'll click the Register Now button. This takes us to the register page. Click the Register button and the message, "All fields are required," appears with red input fields. Enter the name as John. Enter the email john@gmail.com, then enter the password. Type 5 characters in the password field. Click the Register button and the error, "Password must be at least 6 characters," appears. Add one more character to make it 6. Now we have 6 characters. Click the Register button. A smooth, professional animation plays. After the animation completes, we're redirected to the login page. Enter the email and password. Notice how professional the experience is. When entering incorrect information, errors appear consistently. This is true professionalism. If you're interested in building small professional projects like this, subscribe to the channel and like the video to access upcoming tutorials. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.